All right, let's get going, y'all.
Were you playing Eye of the Tiger?
What's that?
Were you playing Eye of the Tiger?
No, I was given a quick first drum lesson.
Oh, it sounds a lot like Eye of the Tiger.
You gonna send them a bill?
No, it's free.
Yeah, well, I've never heard this, so you could imagine almost anything to it that you want.
You're right. It was a little slow. I noticed that the fan in my room plays all kinds of things. Oh, sing along too.
Shalom, Carl. How are you? I'm fine. I have no idea how I haven't run into you yet today.
Well, you tackle the scriptures.
What do you mean, right into me?
Come across you.
Well, there you are. There, I was in there.
Yeah. But we weren't like chatting or anything. You know,
Oh.
Like, no, hi, how are you?
Oh, well, hi, how are you?
How have things been?
Hanging in there.
Hello, how are you? So let's get started. Let's pray really fast and then
Yeah, that's it.
keep moving. Our Father, we have eaten and we are satisfied. We thank you for the land in Yeshua's name. Amen. Just to get back with you on one thing, Earl. The word there for touched is vayaka.
Vayaka?
Excuse me, vaitaka. Vataka. And it means to touch or to strike or to reach out. So it could mean touch, it could mean strike, or it could mean reach out. Vataka, here it is right here.
Okay.
Vav, tav, kuf, ayin. Vataka.
What was the context there?
Context is the as he wrestled, he touched Jacob's
Follow his thought.
Can you spell that again for me?
Vav,
Vav,
tav,
Tav,
kuf,
Kuf. That's not the
Kuf,
backwards Q.
K-U-F, Q-U-F, I don't care how you spell it.
Okay.
Ayin.
Okay.
Vataka. Vataka. Yeah, ayin looks like the Y. So there's that.
Good. So is the vav there and?
It's more of a possessive thing. It's not. It doesn't mean and in this case.
So it is part of.
It's like the. Yeah. So the root of the word is naka is the original word, but in this case it says vataka. But ka is what we're talking about. The ka, the kuf ayin.
Like taking off? Or?
No, no, ma'am.
So it's caught. What is the root word?
Ka, naka,
No.
naka. But in this case it's vataka. He reached out and touched, or he reached out and struck. Or he struck, or he reached out, or he touched. One of those three. It's mostly translated as touched. So that kind of makes sense, I guess, if an angel has any kind of power, he can strike. But the question I always had is, Jacob stayed there and a man wrestled with him. Now, my next question is, why? Why? Doesn't even make sense. It wasn't WWE or anything. Why did that happen?
That was WWE
Just said-
SmackDown.
Yeah, SmackDown. And he just said, hey, what are you doing? Anyway, there's that. So let's talk about some business really fast. Tomorrow, at some point, if anyone wants to come, and we can work around schedules, Wayne and I plan at some point to come over to our classroom. You can see it right there on the board and look at it and start making plans for reconstruction in there, what we're going to do for the floor, what we're going to do for the walls, what we're going to do for audio visual, those kinds of things. We would like it if you all could come. It doesn't make any sense for me and Wayne to say we're going to go at 10 o'clock if you can't be there at 10. If you would like to come, tell us what time you can make it, and we'll schedule around that. And if you just can't, that's okay. Wayne and I are still going to go, and we'll plan another time.
All right, so I'll try to do the same. If you guys haven't figured out when you can go, I'll try to be
Okay?
available at the same time.
All right. Benjamin, you want to come?
I'd like to, I don't see how we can do it.
Okay, brother. That's no problem. Earl?
Well, if anybody comes, it'll probably be me and, maybe Wesley or George. But I'll try to take pictures with my phone, so when I bring them back, if Connie has anything she
Yeah,
would
great.
like to put into that.
What time is good for you to do that?
Has to be daylight.
Yeah, that's the only thing that,
There's power in there. There's lights. We can do. Oh, you're saying it has to be daylight because you're walking?
No.
10 o'clock.
Oh, yeah, that too, but no, has to be daylight just so that you can really see your way around. It's,
Yeah, 10 o'clock?
10 a.m.?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
I'm going to try to talk with Wayne 10 a.m. right now. Jim, would you like to come?
I may show up on the.
Okay. All right. Appreciate that. Let's see. And also, either tomorrow or Monday, we are writing our check for our air conditioning. They've already got the security cameras up. They've already got the place and the materials to build the cage. Once they install the AC, there will be a steel cage welded around it to keep honest people from stealing the copper out of the system. Because if they want it, they're going to get it. Let's just be honest. So that we have that plan. It's either going to be tomorrow. If you do, we've had some people contribute to that already, and if you want to, the opportunity is not. That doesn't mean you have to do it today. If you say, hey, I can't do it right now, I'll give some next month, whatever. Just take your time and do that. And if you can't, please, absolutely zero pressure. It's not a big deal. Next thing. This past Wednesday, I had a rare and unique opportunity. I was invited to talk to the Impact Center congregation Wednesday night. And it was a really an amazing time. They truly do love us here. It's crazy. And my wife and I were treated like royalty. It was crazy. And I didn't hold anything back on them. I gave them straight Torah, straight truth, and it was highly, highly accepted. For example, I told them why and showed them how and why we're supposed to be keeping Shabbat. And I showed them that Shliach Shaul, or Apostle Paul, kept the Sabbath, and Yeshua HaMashiach kept the Sabbath, and they accepted it. They're like, oh, wow, yeah, that's really something. And then I went on to teach them a little bit about Sukkot and what Sukkot is about and what we do for Sukkot. And I invited them as part of our family at Beit Tefillah to Sukkot with us this year. And I can tell you from experience, if there's one thing the congregation here at the Impact Center knows how to do, it's put together an event. I've seen them do it. It's just amazing, the turnouts they have. And they do some great things for the community. They once or twice a month, they go in to get thousands and thousands of pounds of food. And they set it up out here in the parking lot and say, hey, come get it. If you need it, come get it right now. And like one time they had, I'm not kidding you, 58,000 pounds of potatoes in the parking lot. Come get them. Once a month they have another thing. I can't remember what it's called, maybe angel food or something. It's a box of produce and 2 gallons of milk and something else, a gallon of orange juice, whatever the case is. And it's come get it. They do amazing things. It's really great. Well, I told them about Sukkot. I told them what we do. I told them the 3 commandments about Sukkot, what we're supposed to do. Gather the 4 species. We're supposed to dwell in booths, and we're supposed to rejoice. And I gave them good reasons and good ways to do all those things. They loved every single one of them. It was amazing. And I even went so far as to, I told them, about the rejoicing part. Well, JD, my life is in shambles. I just don't feel like rejoicing. And I said, rejoice anyway. Just do it. It's a week-long festival to the Lord. And I showed them where these aren't Jewish appointed times. These aren't Jewish holidays. These appointed times belong to the Father. and they accepted it. It wasn't a thing where like, oh. And many of them said so. And actually, one guy sat right there with his wife. He's from here, but his wife's from Cameroon, and fled Cameroon at one time and lived in Israel for 5 years as a child because they were being oppressed in Cameroon. And his thing was, so wait a minute, those are our holidays too? I said, yes, they are absolutely, yes. They are for you. They're for me. They're for everyone here. They were grasping it. And so one of the things I invited them to do is pick 4 or 5 people to be on the Sukkot planning committee. Because if we're going to plan an event, we talked about it in that room a few months ago or a month or so ago, we said if we're going to plan an event, we have to take this many ideas and shrink them down to what's realistic. What can we really get done? And if you remember in there, we talked things about, try to support things in Scripture. For example, the Scripture that says, teach your sons and daughters the bow and all the weapons of war. Well, to me that says, let's have an archery tournament. I love it. So at some point, the committee is going to say, hey, I'm going to be in charge of the archery tournament. And then it's up to that person to come up with the rules. It's up to that person to come up with the resources. How are we going to get the targets? Are we going to do compound bows? Are we going to do recurve bows? We're going to do elementary school rules, whatever the case is. It's up to them to come up with safety, how we're going to do it, where we're going to do it, that kind of thing. And so, and just one second, sir. And then other things like fishing derby. One of the things I really want to do is a craft fair. I think it's amazing. I'm not telling you to come there and try to sell your stuff. Me personally, just so everyone knows, I had a deep spiritual problem with the merchant's table we had set up in here last night on Shabbat. I personally did not like it one bit. That's not what it's about. But if we have a craft fair on one of the days, it's a time for you to come and say, look what Elohim did with my hands. And we talked about George or somebody building a birdhouse. I don't care what it is. I've got a friend who does car upholstery. Let him bring some car seats. My wife sits behind the loom and makes scarves. Some people make quilts. Some people do carpentry. My brother is a fantastic blacksmith. You cannot understand the cool things he makes. I try to write Torah scrolls, and I want to bring that scroll out, put it under glass, and say, look what Adonai did with my hand. And that was it about. And they really loved that. And so there's no limit. And also, as the thing started, their praise and worship band was up here, and they played for about 20 minutes. And I'm telling you, it was awesome. It's something that we haven't had in a long time, and maybe never like that. We've had bands before. I can remember at one Sukkot, Gary Gardner was there, and who's that guy up in near Chickasha?
Kerry Alexander.
Kerry Alexander was there. Justin, now Simcha, he played bass. I played drums. We had singers. Played a lot of Kerry songs. We played a lot of other songs. It was just a great time. So I want those musicians that were up there the other night, I'm telling you, singing, they may not understand the complete truth of the Torah, but you can't tell me that they don't love God as much as we do. So it's up to us to meet them where they are and try to teach them as slowly as they need to learn until they accept the truth of Yeshua the Messiah. One second. You had something just a minute ago, Ben?
Yeah, you mentioned archery tournament because it says teach your children
The bow and all the weapons of war.
Right. Isn't the modern bow a gun?
No. A gun is a gun and a bow is a bow, because I hunt with both of them.
Basically, the sword is probably the same.
Yeah, so as far as archers go, I'd say probably right. Yes, sir.
It's not a gun, it's a rifle.
Yeah, rifle, baby. Pogue. Go ahead.
What about being kosher? I don't mind Sukkoting with other people,
Yeah, okay,
but
great. So that is going to be, yes,
I don't
excellent.
want them to offend us, and at the same time, I don't want to have to refuse necessarily what they're wanting to serve. It's like, sorry, I just don't eat.
Yeah, right. So this is what we talked about up here, and their leader, I call him Shliach Ray, Apostle Ray. He calls himself an apostle. We just go by that respectfully. Apostle Ray and Pastor Jesus, and they both stood here and said, whatever rules you make, we will go by. And so when we get the council together for the planning committee, we're going to say there cannot be any unkosher food. And they are going to go with that. They know. I don't care.
Okay, but they may not know a marshmallow that you buy out of the store is unkosher.
It'll be up to us to teach them that.
Right, that's fine.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is the planning committee has to start now. And I want to have once a month for a time. And then as we get closer, we got to have twice a month. And then we got to go every week until Sukkot starts, that kind of thing. But they will abide. And he also said, he told his people, if you put your name down on the list to be on the committee, and they tell you that the meeting's on Monday night at 7 o'clock, you have no excuses. You be there at 7 o'clock. And everybody agreed. And I'm telling you, I only want 4 or 5 people, but I guarantee you 15 people were totally excited about it. Well, a couple people didn't understand. They thought it was happening this week.
Oh.
And I kind of had to explain to them, no, we got plenty of time. This is a plan. It's a week-long celebration. So they have plenty of time, and they know. So they're on board with us. And we don't know where we're going to do it. We may not be able to have, say, a fishing derby. Right now, our thought process is to say we're going to Sukkot modern-day Israeli style this year, which would be we set up, say, even if it's at the community center back here, with a super sukkah where everyone can meet, eat their meals. We do our teachings, we do our Torah readings, we do our waving of the lulav, those kinds of things. And we'll maybe have, so everyone can participate in building a sukkah. Whoever's in charge of that activity will have the materials. We'll have sukkah. Maybe it's a contest. Who comes up with the most decorative or the coolest idea for us? Whatever the case is. But that's one idea. So that you're here during the day rejoicing and in the evening rejoicing. But at the end of the day, time to go home and sleep in your own bed, then come back the next morning. If we decide to go camping somewhere, we'll decide where that is. That's something for the committee to plan and make sure that and they'll go back to their congregation and say, hey, these are the 3 ideas we have for location. Here's one, and here's one. Let's vote and see which one is the best that works for us. We'll do the same. We'll come back together and we'll make a decision. It's kind of how it has to go. Yes, sir.
Where does your brother live, or where does he work? I guess I should ask.
My brother?
Uh-huh.
He lives 8 miles north of me in eastern Comanche County, and he is the vice principal at some school.
No,
Patrick Henry.
I was wondering whether it's like possible to hire him for an afternoon or a day or something to fire up his forge. And
Absolutely.
let people
Yeah.
iron.
It's absolutely. He'll come out and give a class. Yeah.
I can teach chainmail.
Chainmail?
Yes. In terms of woven.
Looks really good too.
All right.
Looks real.
All right.
It is real.
Right on. Well, we're not here to decide what events we're going to do now, but what I would like to know is how many of you can commit to a Beit Tefillah Impact Center Sukkot this year?
That would be awesome. I mean,
Cleveland's are in. All right. I understand if you have ties somewhere else and you just can't do it, you just can't do it. I get it. It's no hard feelings, whatever the case is, but it's going to be a big deal. It's going to be a family time. And I told them this isn't Beit Tefillah Sukkot. This is our family Sukkot. Impact Center and Beit Tefillah as one family doing Sukkot. Yes, sir.
I would recommend that they see if we can open it up to the community, not just.
Well, if we have it at the community center, it is definitely going to be open to the community.
What are the dates this year?
I'd have to look at it.
It's
I haven't looked at it.
September this year.
I think it is in September. So hopefully the cold north wind won't be upon us at that time.
Well, I was going to ask rather than doing this, maybe totally inappropriate, but I was going to say, you're dead set on doing it on Sukkot?
Yeah,
Yeah.
or as close to as possible. Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
no, the reason I say it is because, the holy days are so serious. The high
Yes.
holy days are very, very serious too.
Right.
And we, saying there are people who do teaching, Passovers, teaching, Sukkots, since I didn't know if we were absolute on doing it on those days.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Because it is a high holy day.
It's the wedding feast of the Lamb, right?
Yeah.
And even though we can't go to Jerusalem, it's not actually Sukkot. We're just doing a rehearsal, trying to do the best we can with what we have and understand the Mashiach. Is what we're trying to do. Trying to become close to Mashiach.
It was also most likely the time of his birth.
That's what we believe. And we also believe that it's going to be the first holiday celebrated after the tribulation period.
What a welcome.
So,
That'd be cool.
does anyone here want to serve on the committee? If you guys are going to commit to it, I know that Wesley wanted to be in charge of archery tournament or whatever, so we wouldn't make him in charge of archery tournament now, but if he wanted to be on the committee, he's absolutely welcome. Does anyone want to be on the committee?
We'd like to,
The planning committee?
we would like to, but is there a way we can, because of how long it takes us to get here and gas?
Actually,
That's
right now, I'm working here in town. As
we're
long as it's
working
after,
up
right,
there, so
I could actually, I could do it. I'm actually working here in town, so
is there a way
if we
we
have
can
it
do
after,
the Facebook conference?
if we have it at 7 o'clock at night, I could do it.
I think in this case, it's going to be important for us to meet face to face. The Facebook back and forth, email back and forth is fine, but we're going to meet face to face and take notes.
Like live Facebook when you actually see.
Oh,
What
maybe.
you do here, no,
Maybe.
that you would live stream.
That's absolutely possible. That's not out of the question.
And communicate.
Yeah, it's not out of the question.
Like Zoom or something.
That's not out of the question.
You might have to do that if they reimpose COVID restrictions anyway.
I don't have Facebook.
Coulda, woulda, shoulda, if, whatever. We're gonna have to do
Depends on
it.
if you're in a city or in a county.
Right.
State laws apply.
And number one, they do not have a way to enforce that scam anyway. So who is,
That's what I'm gonna be there for.
right on, keeping them at bay with his M16.
Enforcing the scam.
Right. Love it. So, do I have anyone here that wants to be on the committee? Ben?
Now, remember, we have to put on a show where we are at least as committed as what they are.
That is a fact. And right now, we're trying to say that, right now, we'll decide, but right now, it seems most convenient to have our committee meetings on the same days we have our Monday Bible study. And right now, our Monday Bible studies are the first Monday of every month. For example, there is one this coming Monday. Yom Sheni.
I guess I should say, can I have a little time to make sure?
Lot time to make sure. Yes, ma'am?
I hate to commit to it because Monday is a good, I'm gonna be at Birmingham.
Sure.
Like we have volleyball thing and
Yeah.
that's a homeschooling thing.
So that might actually work out. Just,
Maybe you can be in charge of the volleyball tournament at Sukkot. Anyway, okay, so I got Ben for sure, and a maybe from Silver House. All right, and I know I'll definitely be on the committee. Hopefully Wayne will as well. And if Wes wants to, like he did express interest in it before. Jim, you in? Out?
Not really.
Okay, all right, great, no problem. All right, so one way or another, we're going forward with it, and I believe it's going to be a grand event. I think it's going to be great. One of the things that I was really impressed with them, they don't know what they're doing, and there was a time when we didn't know what we were doing either. And everyone has to admit that. And these people are open to the Feast of Elohim this year before Yom Kippur, not on Yom Kippur, the day before Yom Kippur, they set up a big tent at the community center and did mikvahs all day. Whoever wanted to be mikvah before Yom Kippur. Now, we would have done something like that too in the beginning. I mean, we poured oil on our heads, not knowing what we were doing, just hoping, God, please let this be the right thing. Teach us what is the right thing. And they are earnestly seeking what is the right thing. And anyway, we love them, they love us. That's happening. Anybody else got anything? Those are the two business things I have. The air conditioner is happening, and we're going to try to meet at 1000 hours tomorrow. That is 10 o'clock for military pukes.
We'll go.
We'll go, baby. Puke? Puke's not gross. As long as you can save the chunky pieces for later, you can survive.
The green stuff's better than anything, though.
You can gross him out.
Right on.
I've seen Marines eat it. So
Take some marine.
With our crayons for dessert.
Yeah.
Hey man, Marines might be crayon eaters, but Army guys are not marker sniffers. I guarantee you, I was in both, so I'm telling you the truth. Let's get going on. Vayishlach or Vayishlach.
Yeah, well, you know, pardon brain cells.
So, how many mitzvot in this parsha? Who guesses 7? Who guesses 3? 3? Got 2 for 3. Who guesses 5? George got 5. Who guesses 1? Mrs. Soborowski? Oh, it's not 5. It's not 7. It's either 3 or 1.
Do you need that?
It's 1. What is it?
What do you win?
So now let's talk about it. Now this is how many mitzvot according to the Ramban.
Is this not eating the flesh of the thigh?
Let's talk about it. Chabad mitzvah number 194. Do not eat the sinew of the thigh. But let's read it. It's like, first of all, is it a positive or a negative commandment?
Negative.
Do not.
Do not. Very good. Awesome. Is this a true mitzvah or a long-standing tradition?
Long-standing tradition.
It seems like it's a tradition. It's one of the 613.
It is one of 613, but it's a tradition. It says two primary tissues are forbidden in the hind quarter, the inner sinew, the sciatic nerve, which branches out from the rear spinal column, runs down the inner thigh of the animal's body, is forbidden. Common peroneal nerve, which runs across the thigh on either side, is forbidden by the sages. So, but let's read it. Where did we say it was? 32, 33, or 32 or 33. It's going to be 32 if you get a non-Jewish source. Let me get to that really fast because the way it's worded,
It clearly says, for this reason, the Jews do not eat the thigh to this day.
right. So does it say, and Adonai said to Moshe, you shall not eat the sinew? It doesn't say that, does it?
Does it say Naphtali?
And I was just saying to my wife last week, it would be really good if you could make me some sciatic nerve with barbecue sauce.
I got one question. Can you really see that nerve?
Yeah,
It's very difficult to remove.
Yeah. I try to remove it in my deer.
What did she do?
Yeah, this one says.
I was just joking.
That's whether it says Israelites only the thigh that is at the hip side.
Did you make me some boiled sinew for supper? So,
So,
in my personal opinion, it's a long-standing tradition, and it's in the Torah. So it's not like it's something we can just throw away. I mean, this just tells us, hey, the Jewish people do not eat the sinew there of the thigh.
There's
But
nothing wrong with
But it doesn't say
tradition,
so, but it says.
Yeah,
just so it doesn't contradict the sport.
that's exactly right. That's exactly right. And I don't think it does. Well, I think the rabbis have made it contradictory.
So I'll tell you, Yeshua pointed one out.
So let's go on this a little bit. This first one was the Art Scroll commentary, and then also the Art Scroll commentary says this. But the Sansino commentary says the sciatic nerve, this together with other arteries and tendons, must be removed from the slaughtered animal before that portion of the animal can be ritually prepared for Jewish consumption. This precept is a constant reminder of the divine providence to Israel as exemplified in the experience of the patriarch.
So the American Jews are, I hate to use the word lazy, but they don't want to go through the trouble of the hard job of removing that sciatic nerve. So they only eat the front part of the cow. They sell the rest of it to the Gentiles.
Right. So they say that the sciatic nerve is not kosher, you can't eat it, but they also say only the front half of the animal is kosher.
That makes absolutely no sense at all. That isn't biblical.
No, it's not biblical.
No, it's not. Yes, sir?
I'm not giving up my rump roast.
My round or my sirloins.
Yep.
Basically, they're making 50% profit.
On the rare occasions I get to go to Texas Roadhouse, I'm having a good sirloin.
Yeah, buddy.
Anyway, I just thought it was interesting that they say what's the Torah says exactly what's kosher, and even the commentaries go to say, hey, we just don't eat this part, we take it out. But modern day Judaism says, hey, we don't even mess with the back half of the animal. Yes, sir.
Now, this being from the Masoretic text, does it say the same thing in the Septuagint? Because the Masoretes did change things, but every time they changed something, they marked down what they changed. So I don't know.
I have it. I have a Tikkun Sofrim, so I looked at it. It seems to be exactly the same.
You know, Jews in other part of the world still eat the back half, but they go, yes, they go through the trouble of removing the sciatic.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the
But
tradition.
over here, we don't want to do that.
We're not even gonna mess with it.
Yeah.
How can we make money off of this?
So
So we'll bet that's somebody else, yeah.
The Rebbe says we can sell to the Gentiles. There we go. Let's move
So
on.
he pays for the whole cow and we get one half.
Uh-huh.
I have to pay for
Yeah.
That's good business right there, if you ask me.
Yeah.
So then Jacob sent angels ahead of him to Esau, his brother, in the land of Seir, in the field of Edom. Let's talk about this really quick. Our scroll commentary calls them malachim, angels. One question though, here's a quiz. He sent real angels in order to both impress and terrify Esau. This teaches that righteous people are greater than angels. For when Jacob had need for emissaries, he had the right to summon angels to do his bidding. Who said that? The Rambam, Menachem Schneerson, Rashi, or Rabbi Akiva?
I guess.
How the heck are you?
Schneerson. That's my guess.
I got one for Schneerson. Who else?
it. Oh,
Rambam?
Kiva.
Akiva. All right, let's look at
Oh,
it.
Rashi.
This comes down to the Lubavitch Rebbe or Rashi. Who wants to say who?
I'm sticking with Schneerson, but it probably was Rossi.
It was Rashi.
The one who's named after psychedelic mushroom.
You bet, baby. So Jacob's courses of action. This is what he did when he knew Esau was coming his way. Course of action 1, divide the people into 2 companies. Course of action 2, pray. I would have started with that, personally. Course of action 3, give gifts. That's what he had. That's what he did. I might would have started with number 2. And number 3, then.
By the time he was done with number 2, when you read what he was praying, it's like he knew everything he needed to know.
Yeah.
He
So
didn't act on what he knew.
Right. But he was still, God, please save me. I am afraid of this guy. Let's keep going. So course of action number 2 is the one I would have gone with. Course of action number 1, then Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed, and he divided the people who were with him and the flocks and the herds and the camels into 2 companies. For he said, if Esau comes to the one company and attacks it, then the company which is left will escape. And like Denver pointed out, he put his unloved kids in the front and his most treasured kids in the back.
And wives.
And wives, yeah, right. Course of action number 2. Then he decided, God of my father Abraham, God of my father Yitzhak, Hashem who said to me, return to your land with relatives, he decided to pray. I have become 2 camps, he said. Rescue me, please, from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau. For I fear him, lest he come and strike me down, mother and children. And you had said, I surely do go with you, and I will make your offspring like the sand of the sea, which is too numerous to count. So it's almost like he was, God, you said, you better do what you said. Anyway, course of action number 2 is what he did. Course of action number 3. Spent the night there, and he made presents of goats, rams, milking camels. Now, when you read that milking camels, that the translation was that these were camels who had recently had calves, and the calves were still suckling on the camels. I'm not trying to tell you that they didn't drink camel's milk, because I believe in my heart that they did, but it's not kosher. But that's what it says. What's that?
I said nothing on the camel's kosher.
No,
They stink,
nothing.
they smell, and they got spiders.
Well, number 1, they don't have a split hoof. They got split toe, but it's a
Yeah.
soft pad. It's not a hoof. Anybody who's ridden on a camel, and I've been in a camel race or 2,
I'm not riding.
Pulling camel spiders off with the Bedouins there in Kuwait. And camel spiders are evil, man, I'm telling you.
Now, which would win first? The camel spider or the scorpion?
The camel spider has the advantage right away, but the scorpion always prevails. Another thing too, I saw a camel spider defeat a pit viper.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah. They put them together to make them fight. It was special forces guys that did it.
Oh, wow.
Like red salmon on it.
Yes, they were betting on it. They put a small pit viper and a camel spider, which I'm telling you was bigger than this book, and the camel spider killed that pit viper. It was amazing.
It's a habit of ours. I mean, theirs.
Yeah. They did that. Yeah, that was crazy.
Well, they took a cobra once and they defanged it, sewed its mouth shut, and then they would play with it. See who was quick enough to go around the back of the head, smack it.
Yeah.
They can still spit though.
So, Art Scroll commentary says that Jacob could dedicate himself with conviction to contradictory courses of action as testimony to his self-discipline. He could cast a lot with God, yet not fail to make necessary human responses in a crisis. He could recognize an element of justice in Esau's hurt in losing the blessing, yet prepare for an attack as if there were no defense but his own strong arms. This chapter teaches that Israel in exile must always be able to recognize and act upon the varying and sometimes conflicting elements in any situation. What are the contradictory courses of action?
You lost me.
Believing that Yahweh was going to protect him and give him many children, and his descendants would number as the sand on the seashore. And yet, on the other hand, he's like afraid that they're all going to keep dying.
Right. Saying, I believe in this thing that you told me, Father, but still taking the time to split his family up into two companies and give him an incredible gift. So that's a contradictory thing. Either you believe or you do not believe.
I don't think you gotta believe and then just sit back on your haunches and do no action.
Oh, good. Exactly.
Let me see.
Why can't you prepare?
Yeah, isn't there a whole thing in the Bible about if you have faith, you'll act? Or
Yeah,
show your
we're
actions,
saying this is a
show your faith
contradiction.
by your actions?
We're not saying it's a contradiction. The Art Scroll commentary says it's a contradiction.
Don't you think there are times though, like for example, like Jehoshaphat, when God told him this battle's mine, and they went out, no weapons at all, just singing, you know what I'm
But
saying?
they
Which
still
is-
had to go out.
Yes, they did, but I'm just saying they believed God so much so, you know what I'm saying, that they
That took a
They
lot of
they
didn't
were
feel like
chutzpah.
they were
the
all gonna
victory,
die.
you know what I'm saying?
Took a lot of chutzpah to do that.
That's
That's
faith.
faith. That is faith for sure.
They have lots of them. They have a lot of good stuff
Yeah, they do.
and stubbornness.
So I don't think, you gotta slide back, keep around, just,
Where? How far back?
hold it. Or where you go forward.
Forward? Forward is the next topic. Let's go backwards.
No, you just hold it. Here we go.
This one?
I think, let me make my statement and maybe see where that might be.
Okay.
Him sending gifts was, I think he recognized not a goodness in Esau, whichever slide said that. I didn't use the word goodness, but a,
Element of justice in Esau's heart.
yeah, that one. I don't think that's what he saw. I think he saw the greed and the concentration on stuff
Yeah.
that Esau liked. That's why he sent all that.
Yeah. I tend to agree with that.
Esau was a materialist.
You bet he is.
There's
And a
also
killer.
saying, I'm coming here to protect him myself, because he was already at that.
Yeah.
But he brought all the gifts and the slaves, so if he'll take that and kill the slaves, and then he knows there's something,
Right.
you know.
Let's put all the women and children up front, and then let's put all the women and children in the other camp over here, but I'm going somewhere else.
And I think he also played that card of greed.
Yeah, I think he did too. Yeah. if he would have had weapons, he probably could have given some of that too. So Jacob wrestled.
Well, may I ask a question then?
Yes.
So why did Yaakov not send a messenger to his parents? Because it almost seems like he could have appealed to his earthly dad, like, hey, I want to come back and live with you guys now.
I don't know.
How are things with my brother?
Yeah.
Well, also, where did it really say that Esau was going there to kill him? You know, the
He doesn't. He just perceived it.
In other words, it seems like there's just a
So-
perceiving.
So that was part of the lesson last week because Jacob knows he was deceitful. Jacob knows what he did, and he knew that he'd made some enemies out of this deal. So it was his he's coming here with a battalion of Marines.
You put two and two together,
To
to
get
get what
me.
he did, and hey, he's not coming to meet me with just a meeting.
If he was just coming to visit me, there'd be 10 or 15 guys with him. But
Well, he might have heard that Laban was coming after him, and he was going to go help him out of there. So I thought that might be stretching it.
This reminds me, it's a family issue though. I mean, it just reminds so much of, I'm saying family issues,
Mhm.
how they are, especially that Esau was his older brother by a little. And I'm just saying there's this weird thing of respect, but yet defensive thing with family.
Plus, Esau was obviously a lot stronger.
Mhm.
So if it came down to a fight, I think he knew that his brother always was going to beat him.
Yes.
I don't know. Jacob
He was definitely hairier, but I don't know if he's strong
strong
enough.
as well. I don't know.
I almost said he was hairy. I don't know about strong.
I
I don't know. He's a mighty hunter, a warrior.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jacob lifted that rock. I'm just saying, it wasn't no small thing.
Jacob lifted a rock, that's for sure.
Yeah. That's it.
And he
He
also
wrestled
wrestled
God.
with an angel, possibly, right?
He was pretty tough for a guy who dwelt in tents.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think
had
he was
to
a
be
man
around
before.
sheep and all that. I
hadn't
was
been.
strong.
Yeah, true. And then he ran into Laban.
So was their dad still alive at this point? Because
Yes.
when he blessed them,
Well, I think so.
he was on his deathbed.
That's
Yeah.
how.
Well, that's
I
what they
was
say,
seeing it.
yeah, that it seemed like he
He
was.
said that. He said,
Yeah.
let me bless you to Esau. Bring this, I'm going to bless you before I die.
But then somehow it
the
was
burial
another
doesn't
30
happen
years.
until-
Well, I'd say it has to be that way because, or because the Torah, remember, right after he deceived his father to take the blessing, he had to skedaddle.
And how long was it gone to accrue that many detours?
26 years.
26 years, almost 30 years.
So if his dad was on his deathbed 47
Then-
years earlier,
He must have got better.
Either that or he just stayed in bed with her.
Or you just.
That was probably around the time they came up with bear aspirin and camel aspirin.
A willow tree.
It does, the bark of a willow tree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've made some aspirin tea before. It works. So I
It works
can't.
better because it doesn't tear up your stomach like aspirin.
Well,
I can't.
Anyway, my question kind of was, why didn't he appeal to his dad? And I'm thinking this because of something that happened in the next generation, which was eventually when Yaakov dies, all of his sons are worried that Yosef is now going to kill them because their father
It's not there to.
and that was because his father still lived, that he was okay. But in this situation, it doesn't say anything where Yaakov thought that because their father was still alive, that Esau wouldn't do anything, and that he wasn't worried, like, after dad dies, then maybe my brother's just gonna kill me and keep everything. When in fact, the opposite happened. That Yitzhak died, they buried him, and then Esau's like,
See ya.
See ya.
Gotta go.
it's yours.
Yeah, I don't know.
We probably saw it.
I never compared the two with Jacob's sons and Yitzhak's sons. I hadn't put the comparison that because they did think that Joseph was going to kill him or at least do bad things to him. So
Yeah, the Yitzhak was also blind.
Yeah.
Because he was, when he gave the blessing. that-
but he still probably could have said, "Hey, get a message to my son Esau and tell him to knock it off." But I don't have an answer for you. But it is a pretty cool question.
But I'm saying even Yaakov could have sent his messengers and say, go see my father, find out what the situation is. I'm ready to bring everything and come home. And I just want to make sure that there's not going to be a war with my brother or whatever. And then Dad could have said, okay, guys, your little brother's coming back, and you guys are just going to be peaceful about it.
But there was a mother who sent him to there.
Isn't she dark?
She was already dead.
Yeah, she already died.
So, all right, let's keep moving. Jacob wrestled. Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled him until daybreak. I still don't know why. Why did a man wrestle with him?
How'd they get into this fight? How'd the
They
fight
don't.
start?
Yeah. Exactly. How'd the fight start? Hey, man, you're
blessing.
coming up on my turf.
He wanted the blessing.
And he touched him in the socket of the thigh, so the socket of Jacob's thigh was dislocated when he wrestled with him. Oh, there we go. And then he said, let me go, for the dawn is breaking. But he said, I will not let you go unless you bless me. So he said to him, what is your name? And he said, Yaakov. And he said, your name shall no longer be Jacob, but Israel. We have striven with God, Elohim, and with men, and have prevailed. Then Jacob asked him, I don't know where the M is, but Jacob asked him and said, please tell me your name. But he said, why is it that you ask my name? And he blessed him there. So Jacob named the place Peniel, where he said, I have seen God face to face, yet my life has been preserved. Who did Jacob wrestle with? A man, an angel, or with Elohim?
Did he think it was Esau, maybe? At first?
I don't
I
know.
think it was the Messiah.
Yeah, but I mean, he would fit technically all three of those categories because he was known as the angel of the Lord. He was a man and he was also Elohim. He fits all the categories.
He's been there for years and years, and nobody really knows.
Nobody really
He
knows.
was strong because he was a carpenter.
I think he was a rock.
Well, no, the thing is he's always
He always has
he can
been.
go wherever he wants,
Gotcha.
going, timeline.
Right?
So,
Let's see what some commentaries say. In Hosea, ISR says, Ephraim is feeding on wind and pursuing an east wind. All the day increases falsehood and ruin, and they make a covenant with Asher, and oil is sent to Mitzrayim. And Adonai has a controversy with Yehudah to punish Yaakov according to his ways, to repay him according to his deeds. He took the brother by the heel in the womb, and in his strength he strove with Elohim. Hosea says he strove with Elohim. He strove with the messenger Malach. A messenger Malach, and overcame and wept and sought his favor. He found him in Beit El. And there he spoke to us, even Adonai, Elohim of hosts. Adonai is his remembrance. Therefore, return to your Elohim, guard his kindness and right ruling, and wait on your Elohim continually. So this is from the book of Hosea. In one breath, he says he strove with Elohim, which means mighty ones. And in this case, it says he strove with the messenger, which is Malach, and overcame. Interesting. Bereshit 32:25, and Targum Jonathan says, this is interesting. So everybody remember what a Targum is? Anybody? Yeah, Targum is an Aramaic version of the Torah with commentary. Aramaic, not Hebrew. Jacob remained alone beyond the Jebekah, and an angel contended with him in the likeness of a man, and he said, hast thou not promised to give a tenth of all that is thine? Your question. And behold, thou hast 10 sons and 1 daughter, nevertheless thou hast not tithed them. Immediately he set apart the 4 firstborn of the 4 mothers, and there remained 8. And he began to number from Simeon, and Levi came up for the 10th. Michael answered and said, the Lord of the world, this is thy lot. And on account of these things, he, Michael, remained from God at the torrent until the column of the morning was ascended. That's from the Targum Jonathan commentary, rabbinical commentary.
But didn't he already have to have 11 children at that point if they had 4 mothers? because that means that Raquel had to have had a child,
She did, it was Joseph.
and that would mean that he already had 11 children.
Yeah, 12.
Someone hadn't done it.
Can't cut it in half, so choose the first
How do you come
one.
up with
2
10?
arms length.
Keep going.
Okay.
Maybe they didn't count 9.
So the Etheridge translation says, he saw that he had not power to hurt him, and he touched the hollow of his thigh. And Jacob's thigh was distorted in contending with him, and he said, let me go, for the column of the morning ascendeth, and the hour cometh when the angels on high offer praise to the Lord of the world. And I am one of the angels of praise. But from the day that the world was created, my time to praise has not come until now. And he said, I will not let you go until you bless me. Still from Targum Jonathan, that he was contending with an angel of praise, and it's his time finally today to go offer praise as the morning sun comes up. What do you think about this?
Where did they get that from?
Man, I don't know.
Where'd they get the last one from?
I don't know. I'm just. Go ahead.
Why are we talking about it?
Because this is a very real teaching
To who?
to the Jews.
So all these places in here where it has praise, what's praise in Hebrew? What's praise in Hebrew in there?
I'd have to take a look.
You put it in,
Hallel means praise also.
well,
So I'm wondering what's in there. When it says these angels, are these
I have to look at the Aramaic
the
version of it.
angels of Yehuda?
Angels of Hallel. Anyway, this is what it says. So we still haven't answered the question: who did he really wrestle with?
I still say it was the
We don't
Messiah.
know. I'm not gonna. That's cool,
But
and
it's-
I definitely respect that. But
but
I'm
it's-
not gonna. I'm not
It's
gonna.
not,
find
it's
that.
not a hard, fast thing for me.
Okay.
It's just that's what I think.
I think if he wrestled with the Messiah, he would have got it with
I think he did get his
no
butt
problem. Go ahead.
I think that if we were supposed to know,
We would
if Yaakov
know.
was supposed to know, then whoever it was
Would have told him his name.
Now, if you don't think he didn't get whipped, he did touch his thigh.
I'm just saying, if he wrestled with the Messiah, who is, and we know that, and we even said, Yeshua HaMashiach hu Adonai. He is Adonai, right? He would not stand a chance. It wouldn't have even been, I
Well,
can't even
it's
understand,
because-
why would the Messiah wrestle with him in the first place?
Okay, I think Messiah would actually let him do all that struggling because that's what was going in his heart.
Yeah, like a dad boxing with his son. All right, put the hands up.
Yeah.
Oh, you're doing good.
Get
Try it
get it
again.
out.
Oh, man, I got you. I'm sorry about
Because he
that.
was
Yeah,
really
she broke my
struggling.
thigh.
But where I'm going with that, notice toward the end there, it said, he had seen the face of God
It does say that.
and lived.
It does say that.
The only other one that saw the face of God that I know of in the scripture was Moses.
Yeah.
he didn't see the face of God, he saw
He didn't
God's
see the
back.
Well, my
Because
point
he said-
is,
God says that
God says he.
It says, I
He's
speak to
face
him
to
face
face.
to
It's not like
face.
other people.
right, so that's it.
Yeah, I got you.
Is there any significance to it, like say, like not a soak, but I'm saying, is there any significance to Israel kind of wrestling with God, with Messiah or God, or is there any kind of significance?
That's pretty good. I've talked about that before. Maybe even Jim and me and Wayne have talked about that. If it's prophetic somehow of the way Israel now wrestles whether or not Yeshua really is the Messiah. Some people are coming to faith. Some people are not. Some people are making others, like the guy said last night. In some cases, they make you sign a piece of paper saying you will not bring the gospel message to the Jews while you're here in Israel. So maybe, I mean, we've talked about that before, but me personally, I have not had the opportunity yet to study that completely out, but it is fascinating to
Any
me.
more questions?
Strikes me as kind of prophetic in how Israel, all through their life, until Messiah comes back to set up the kingdom, will have to struggle and fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, and has had to.
Yes, sir.
Is there anything in this, I know we don't get into that much, but is there anything in the Zohar?
I didn't go for it. It's possibly it. I didn't, this is, I can at some point, but I try to keep these as pshat as possible. Because, I don't want to get into controversial arguments that truly has bitten me in the hind end more than once. Or somebody mishears what I said, or comes up with their own interpretation of what I said, and so I just don't like to get into it.
Looks like somebody already came up with their own interpretation of
What
what
was the interpretation?
There are, you're right. So anyway, let's talk about this. No longer be called Jacob. He said, your name shall no longer be Jacob, but Israel. You have striven with God and with men and have prevailed. Since Israel is called Jacob after this event, what is the meaning of you shall no longer be called Jacob? We still call him Jacob today.
I've actually heard a lesson on why he's called, at times he's called Jacob and sometimes called Israel. Because when he acts up and acted like his old self, selfish and conniving, that's when he was called Jacob. And when he was doing what God told him to do and was following the way of God, he was called Israel.
Same thing you were going to say?
He said it.
Yeah.
What do you got?
I look at them as being synonymous, but I think that it is the name that Yahweh uses for him, and in the sense of speaking, or of how he is known to Yahweh. Yahweh basically is giving him this new title, and that's so that he knows that's how he's thought of. But when it says, you shall no longer be called, that doesn't mean that that name will never be used again, because obviously it was. Like even in the Mato Nu, we have it in there, and they're just synonyms with the two names.
Yeah,
But
parallel,
how he is known,
synonymous poetry.
he is now known as one who has struggled with Elohim and prevailed.
Well, also what came out of that, it seems like it was the country on a whole that became known as Israel instead of, we call
Jacobites.
Jacobites or something, but it seems like that, I wonder if people actually started calling him Israel after that. I mean, it seems like they would have still called him Jacob, but I don't know.
I don't read anywhere where men called him
Yeah.
my Lord Israel. I think I was calling Yaakov. So this is what the Archroll commentary says. Rhetorically, the angel asked Jacob his name in order to introduce a statement of blessing. The angel declared, it will no longer be said that you deserve the name Yaakov, which implies akiv or heel or deceit, because you obtained the blessing deceitfully, as Esau charged in 27:36. Instead, Yaakov would receive the additional name Israel from Sarah, prevailing superiority. From then on, it would be acknowledged that he received the blessing because he prevailed in an open competition to demonstrate which of the two was more deserving. And I could have made another cool question out of that. That's Rashi. Yep, he gets to be called Israel because he had an open competition and now he deserves it.
Wow,
That's from the Art Scroll commentary, not kidding.
that was original.
Okay.
I do like the first part of it though, that and kind of ties into what Denver said. It's not like necessarily that his name is no longer Yaakov. For example, when he said that about Avram, he was no longer called Avram. He was called Avraham from then on, right? But that didn't happen with Yaakov. So it's more like perhaps you don't need to, even though your name is Yaakov and it kind of implies deceit and heel grabber, that kind of thing, you don't have to be thought of that way anymore. Right. B'nai Israel.
Well,
It'd
even
be like
Abraham
John.
was called
John had his name, but he was known as the baptizer.
Yeah, the immerser, exactly. Yochanan HaMachzil.
So Israel might be a title as opposed to a name so much.
An accomplishment, something you know, the one wrestled with God. Oh, you mean Jacob?
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yes,
I find
ma'am.
it strange though, because this whole thing is not reminiscent, I guess, that Joshua is very reminiscent to me of these kind of situations where Joshua commands God to make the sun stand still, and where he does these things, but yet there's no name or new thing given to Joshua. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying these kind of things, it's kind of like, it said, when did God heed the voice of a man? And in that scenario, he did. We're here, like Jacob is fighting and winning against God, but yet it's like he didn't give him any special
Because he already had his new name.
Or Elisha.
Yeah, he had a great name, yeah.
Elisha.
Yeah,
So, yeah, it's pretty neat. Yeah, I like
and
that.
also, it's like, as I'm always telling kids, there's a time to not be timid with God, and others to not be, when Elisha had that guy beat the arrows on the ground, he said, you should have done it, many more times.
Do it harder, do it louder, scream louder.
Yeah.
And so there's a time to be, I'm saying, that God, I think, appreciates people being so, bold with him in a way, but there's time not to be.
Sure.
Maybe because of, Alec and Jacob, it means a lot of the things, how the mothers, Rebecca and Rachel, they said like suffering, something like that. And maybe because of what they were feeling, and that's what their name was, the God wanted to say, hey, all of that, because that was a hurt. I'm going to bless you because it's really,
Maybe.
this is my testimony.
Maybe. The jots and tittles. The aratz esav l'krato, v'yabehechum, v'yipol al tzararav, v'yisheku, v'yisheku. See that word that I got circled there and how there's a dot over every letter in the word? That is an anomaly. Those dots don't mean anything and they're not translatable into anything, and we only have speculation as to why they're there.
Somebody had take their kid to work day.
Or that's something really personal.
They have a purpose because they are in other places.
They are in other places. That's exactly
It's
right.
the wrong word.
You're close.
So the meaning of them is highly contended. Nobody can agree on really what they mean here for sure. Let me give you some examples. Monty Judah says, this was the first instance of the jots, the small dots above each letter. Many sages say that the kiss of Esau was disingenuous. What he wanted to do was bite Jacob in the neck with his teeth and rip his throat out. While this seems fascinating, it does not hold up to the other instances of the jots. However, an element of this does speak to other instances. It has to do with Jacob's flock or his family. So in one instance, some sages think that those dots represent teeth. But there are others, for example, Rashi seems to be a big hit today. In the Torah scroll, those dots over each letter in an exegetical device that calls attention to hidden allusions. The sages disagree regarding the significance of the dots. Some hold that Esau's kisses were insincere, but Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says, although it is an immutable rule, Esau hates Jacob, at that moment his mercy was aroused and he kissed Jacob with all his heart. So in this case, Shimon Bar Yochai says they don't represent teeth, they represent tears, because then they wept, following the above view that Esau was genuinely moved by the sight. Rabbi Hirsch comments that one cannot cry unless he is genuinely moved, for tears flow from the innermost. This guy does not know my daughter. Tell you right now, that is not true.
There are some people who are like
Esau's kiss, accompanied by the tears, proved that he was more than selfish, violent hunter. He too was a descendant of Abraham, who was capable of setting aside his sword in favor of humane feelings. He wasn't an animal. I mean, he was a human, right? So he had to love something. But it's conflicting information.
26 years is a long time.
Yeah, it does say.
Long time.
I think I changed a lot in 26 years.
It does say sometimes that being away from people in a longer time is healing happens, but not all the time.
But what's that got to do with it?
But not all the time. Well, it says a kiss. And it
Right,
could,
okay, what does it mean? And okay, for instance, in the Shrine of the Book in Israel, There's an Isaiah scroll.
Oh,
Original Isaiah scroll. It's got those in. Dead Sea Scrolls has those at least a dozen times in it.
At least a dozen, yeah.
So I guess it's what. So they had some meaning, just no.
Vayishlach,
Yeah.
what's that in English?
wept.
This is the wet. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, does it have two more roots inside of it?
Probably, I didn't break it down. Because we got more to go through.
So you're not really going to make us try to reason out what he's got.
Not tonight. Nope.
It does make a great statement though, family
Come
with
to
things.
Family with
He's
things.
just trying to get us to think instead of come up. The goal is not to come up with an answer. It's to think.
Put on your thinking caps.
Oh, I think they're tears.
Think they're tears and not toothas?
That's right. Because he wept.
He wept. Fell on his neck and wept. They cried together.
Yeah, Jacob was afraid of how he was going to respond. So he put all that up there, and then he's seeing all these blessings coming to him. And he's saying, okay, and then we see each other.
And they made up.
It's like, okay,
Well,
my
maybe
attention's
sort
no
of.
longer there.
They're like, you remember that time we went fishing with Dad? Yeah, maybe. Maybe. Let's keep going. Jacob journeyed to Sukkot and built for himself a house, made booths for his livestock, and therefore the place is named Sukkot. Is there more than one place in the Bible called Sukkot?
Yes.
Apparently so.
Yes, there is. And I think it's indicative to it's important that a place that we would call Israel journeyed to Sukkot right after leaving his encounter with Esau, an angel, and Israel journeyed to Sukkot right after leaving Egypt and the coming of the angel of death. So also, think about this, that he went to Sukkot and made booths for his livestock. So this is something we talk about, and I've told the story before about what we do at Sukkot. And this is one of the things I mentioned in the teaching I did here Wednesday evening to the Christians with the Impact Center congregation. I'm not telling you this is how it is, but this is something that I remember the story, and it's been meaningful to me. You remember the story, Yosef and his pregnant wife Miriam are headed to Bethlehem because there's a census, and the census is coinciding with the Feast of Sukkot, right? Or the High Holy Days. He's on his way there. There was no room at the inn. And I can picture the innkeeper saying, yeah, sorry, man, I got nothing. My wife's going to be mad at me, but you can stay in my sukkah. I got it sitting outside. Gives credence here also with this part right here and it's the first time we see in the Bible where they made shelters for animals. It's not an unheard of thing for animals to be kept in a sukkah, in those temporary dwellings. And so we talk about that they stayed in the sukkah. And if you remember that the Israelites wandering in the desert, they stayed in Sukkot, in Sukkot. And the roof material was made out of thatch stuff, whatever grew on the ground, branches, twigs, whatever that they could weave together. But they could look out of the top of the sukkah at night and see the pillar of the Shekinah of fire coming down on the Beit HaMikdash. And they could look out of the top of their sukkah during the day and see the cloud of smoke, the Shekinah, the glory of the Father. And if you think about Yeshua being born in a sukkah, they looked out to see the glory of God, and the glory of God was born in a sukkah. It gives credence to that. I'm not telling you that's the way it is. I'm just telling you that's something that has meant a lot to me over the past many years. I really like it. And this verse tells me that it's not out of the question for them to have been in a sukkah. It's the time of Sukkot, and animals are kept in a sukkah, and that's where the mistranslations come up, and they say he was born in a feeding trough, in a manger. Right. Anyway, it gives us some weight in my mind. I'm not telling you have to believe it that way, but in my mind, it's something great.
Way ahead of you.
Say again, sir.
Way ahead of you.
Right on. So it seems strange that they named the place for animal shelters rather than the houses built for people. Chaim ben Moses suggests that this may have been the first time anyone took the trouble to shelter animals from the sun and cold until Jacob's shepherds considered livestock to be nothing more than the means of sustenance and profit. Because Jacob here made a public display of compassion for all living creatures, the place was named for that precedent-setting act. Once again, Art Scroll commentary. Pretty neat, doesn't change the message of salvation, if it's even true. This is just them doing what we're trying to do now. We sit here and we read something in the scripture and we discuss it.
We wrote all this down today, 1,000 years from now, somebody discovered that right.
Ancient sacred writings, and what's this device it's written on? It seems to be powered by something weird.
It only has 4 Gs.
Lithium.
Oh, yeah, it only has 4 Gs.
So that's pretty neat. So let's talk about Dinah. Dinah. Now, Dinah was the daughter of Leah, whom she had born to Yaakov, went out to visit the daughters of the land. And Shechem saw the son of Hamor the Hivite. Shechem, the son of Hamor the Hivite, the prince of the land, saw her. He took her, and he lay with her by force. He was deeply attracted to Dinah, the daughter of Yaakov. He loved the girl and spoke tenderly to her.
Is that by force really in there, or was it?
Yes, but it's actually the word for raped. I have to look it up.
Yeah, that's what mine translates.
It really
Because
does.
a little later it says he spoke tenderly.
He spoke tenderly to her. That doesn't mean she accepted it.
Could it have been a seduction?
Ooh, I don't know.
Considering it mentions he laid with her by force before it mentions that he talked to her.
That's why I'm trying to establish if that was indeed that.
If it, yeah.
Sounds like Diane knew probably what it meant to be,
And then afterward, he decided she's really nice.
Well,
Yeah.
she was responsive to his move,
Maybe she was. Doesn't say that though.
whether it's
Well, actually,
or
it says they had to rescue him.
Oh, maybe after.
Rescue her from
That wasn't
his
so
house.
bad. I don't know.
If he
He was
rescued
the
her
prince of the
from,
land.
they had to rescue her from his house.
What you got, George?
If he was the prince of the land, did that mean that possibly that was just their one city, or did they have several other cities other than that, you know, and it was just
It
that
sounded like
very
this was
big.
just the one
Yeah.
city.
It's like the prince, but it said the prince of the land, not the prince of the city. Or
Yeah.
He was like the king's son of that land all around. And it seems almost like when they came in and attacked, it was like almost their capital city, and like, you know, now Jacob's worried that the rest of them will, you know, come and get him. So I don't know, but
Oh yeah,
that's
I see what
it
you're
seems
saying.
might be.
Could be. Could be. This is interesting here. By force, humiliated, violated. The root is anah, spelled ayin nun he, anah. And that is the word for rape, even still today in modern Israel, anah. Now these are the records of the generations of Esau, that is Edom. Esau took wives from the daughters of Canaan, Adah, the daughter of Elam the Hittite, Holibamah, the daughter of Anah, and the granddaughter of Zibeon the Hivite.
Wow, didn't we just notice that now meant rape?
Comment, yeah, Esau is Edom, Holibamah is the daughter of Anah, what Shechem did to Dinah. Pretty cool.
Huh. Makes me wonder.
Makes me wonder too. Who has questions?
Okay. I proposed 2 earlier.
I wasn't serious.
Sorry, I am.
I'm just being nice. I gotta really have a question.
Notice
Go ahead, man.
that it says, Simeon and Levi dealt deceitfully with Shechem and Hamor, whatever. But here, Hamor's telling his people in the gate, only on this condition will these men consent to dwell with us, to be one people, if every male among us is circumcised, as they are circumcised.
Yep.
Will not their livestock, their property, and every animal of theirs be ours? Only let us consent to them, and they will dwell with us. It sounds like both sides are being deceitful.
Well, I think in this case, the prince was being deceitful with the men of his land, trying to say, hey, if we do this thing, you can get their livestock.
Actually, I thought it was
'Cause you'll take
the
their
land that
daughters.
said that.
Huh?
That was none of the land that said that.
Oh, yeah, maybe it was. I'd have to look at it. But there was definitely
I
deceit.
think it was Hamor.
It was
Hamor
Amos.
second.
Okay, good.
What did we decide about this last year? Didn't we talk about the same thing?
We talk about the same thing every year, George.
Wait a minute.
And we ask the same
We're talking
questions
about
every year.
It's like these youth challenges.
Whoa. I wasn't talking about this last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. We talk about the same things. We ask the same questions every year.
Same thing.
Okay, well, let me go on to my other question.
Okay.
Was your question going to be, how did somebody know what he told them?
No. And God said to him, I am God Almighty. Be fruitful and multiply. A nation and a company of nations shall proceed from you, and the king shall come from your body.
What is a company of nations?
Like the United States of America.
Each state is a nation state who have agreed to accompany together.
Isn't that amazing?
You must have had that answer.
She's
Awesome.
smarter
It is
than I
amazing.
am. I just
Yeah.
want you to know that.
Everybody in your family's smart.
I know.
Everybody in this room is
They
smart,
get it from her, not me.
except for me.
No, you're smart. You can-
That's not true.
I can't.
I can't what?
Live, George.
So it doesn't take smarts. That just takes stupid rhythm.
See, I don't even have that.
I don't know if I have it anymore.
Connie has a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, this is, I'm sorry, I'll try to do it real quick. You know, it says, I will rebuild the tabernacle that is fallen in Amos, Amos 9:10.
Okay.
It says, okay, but it says, rebuild that, and then it says, a remnant of Edom, or something. I was referencing Obadiah and Esau and all that, but I thought Esau was completely destroyed. Notice, I thought that, okay, you know in Acts where it says that I will rebuild the tabernacle that is fallen, I don't, you know what I'm saying, it references that scripture. What does that have to do with Edom? Which is the remnant,
We're in it.
and it says so that the Gentiles will be,
So you're not going to like this, but in Orthodox Judaism, they believe that the United States is Edom. Not even kidding.
Here than there, right?
They also say that and Edom is a descendant of Rome, or Rome is a descendant of Edom, and we are Rome, and we are descendants of Edom.
How do they get
They
that?
honestly believe that. But they're excited about us right now because we're the ones that are holding the world accountable for its crimes. We're the police force for the world for some reason.
With our
So-
400 soldiers.
So they have deep respect for it, but they believe that we are Edom right now.
Where do they get that?
Because we're barbarians, George.
Isn't the rest of the world?
the
No,
remnant,
George,
though.
just us.
The remnant, does that mean there will be a remnant of Edom left?
Kind of seems like it, right?
It's kind of funny. The Arabs think we're the great white Satan,
We
and the Jews think we're Edom.
Yeah.
Or it was either way.
think we're awesome.
Yeah.
Let's pray.
Wow.
What do you got, George? You got
I
something?
had one more question.
All right.
I just want to know, was that little thing about Devorah, Rivka's nurse, was that like just saying they came to the place where long ago she had died and she had been buried there, and it was referencing that in terms of an event long ago, and it was just inserted there parenthetically sort of to explain the place? Or like somehow did literally Rivka's nurse die right there in that chronology at that time and get buried at that place right there?
Honestly, man, I don't know. I haven't even thought about that yet. I haven't thought about that question. I should, but I don't know. I don't have the answer.
next year.
Ask it again next year. We ask the same questions every year.
Hey, I don't ask the same questions.
I'm not saying you ask the same questions. I'm
She
saying
does.
the same questions get asked every year by somebody. Every year. We do try to change it up a little bit though. So
I was just wondering why Jacob had the idols buried instead of destroyed
Yeah.
under the tree, and it seemed like it was you buried them under the tree for a reason. Could that have been to come back and get the other later? Yeah.
maybe.
Or was it so that so that the rest of them would think that they could come back and get them rid of it?
He was practicing alchemy. No.
Right?
Is Rebecca's idols included in there?
That's a good question.
It is a good question. For another time.
Next year?
But Father, thank you so much for the opportunity to come and hear the Torah. It does strengthen us. We love you. We thank you for the Ruach HaKodesh. We thank you for Yeshua the Messiah. In his name we pray. Amen.
Well, look at all these people eager to come back next year already.
People ask too many questions.
So if you want to know the answer to those questions, come back next year.
Well, we can answer the same question next week.
Yeah, you can. Ooh, gives you time to study up on it.
The thing is, when he was there at Bethel before,
Uh-huh.
Rich wasn't with him. He was by himself.